Thinking of Jamaica likely conjures up picturesque images of white sandy beaches, lush green leafy trees, and sparkling clear blue waters. But Jamaica, and in particular cities such as Spanish Town and Montego Bay, experience high levels of crime and violence, with the country having one of the highest murder rates in the world in the early 2000s. This has left dozens of cases unsolved up and down the country. In today's episode, we'll be exploring just 3 of these horrific cold cases from Jamaica. Desiree Gibbon. Andrea Carly Gibbon last heard from her daughter, 26-year-old Desiree Gibbon, on November 23, 2017. The New York City native, who often went by the nickname Desi, had gone to Jamaica on October 20th that year, looking for bartending work so that she could save up money for university, as she wanted to attend film school in Europe. She was also visiting family she had in Jamaica, as her father and grandmother lived in the Montego Bay area, with her grandmother even running a hotel named Gibbs Chateau, where Desiree was staying during her trip. A model and aspiring documentary maker, Desiree already had a degree in broadcast journalism, and her future seemed bright, until it was stolen from her. During a phone call with her mother on November 23rd, Desiree was at a small Thanksgiving party. Later that night, at around 11:27 p.m., CCTV captured her leaving the hotel. She was dressed casually and told the security guard she would be right back. The 26-year-old stepped out into the night and never returned. Her family never saw her alive again. A passerby found Desiree's blood-soaked body in thick hedge growth 4 miles from her grandmother's hotel in the town of Anchovy on the morning of November 26th. One of her sandals was missing and has never been recovered. Her throat had been cut and her spine severed. She had been almost decapitated. The 26-year-old's body showed no sign of sexual assault, but bruising and defensive wounds revealed that she'd fought her attacker until the bitter end. Her mother commented, "The brutality is what killed me." Desiree was no stranger to the dangers of Jamaica. She had flown over on numerous occasions and never traveled within the country by herself. Andrea noted, "She didn't leave the hotel by herself. She always left with somebody." Furthermore, the 26-year-old always hired a taxi to take her and her traveling companion where she needed to go, and back. Andrea believes her daughter was harmed by someone she trusted, and that the killing was calculated. Desiree's father feels the 26-year-old was lured out of the hotel, as she had almost none of her possessions when she left. Desiree had left the hotel without her ID, money, or bag. During her visit, she used 2 mobile phones, her regular one, and one she used for making local calls in Jamaica. While she had her regular phone with her when she left that night, it was not discovered with her body and has never been found. 2 months after her murder, her aunt received a call from that same phone. She was met with silence when she answered. Hours later, Desiree's aunt got a second call, which she missed. When she tried to ring back, the phone wasn't working or had been turned off. Progress in Desiree's case is slow to appear, and there are few reports on her case, many of which seem to conflict with one another in regard to dates, times, and locations. It's unclear what evidence was pulled from the crime scene, other than the fact that foreign DNA was found on Desiree's body. It has been reported that the DNA belongs to 2 separate individuals, one male and one female. However, Desiree's uncle has claimed that law enforcement told him that they were searching for 2 women who were believed to have carried out the attack. Meanwhile, her parents have stated that the police told them their daughter trusted the wrong people, and that they were looking for a man known as Rasta. So far, there have been no suspects named in the investigation. The most recent update we found was that in 2020, DNA samples from 6 individuals were taken, but did not match the evidence found at the crime scene. Desiree's mother has been very vocal about her criticism of the investigation, noting that detectives have failed to follow up on leads and even deleted phone records they received from AT&T, Desiree's mobile provider, as they were allegedly not useful. In 2018, she contacted and hired a PI named TJ Ruesch, and in 2021, she set up a GoFundMe, hoping to raise $100,000 to help aid the investigation. Desiree's case remains unsolved. If you have any information about this case, you can visit www.justicefordesiree.com to contact TJ Ruesch and the family. Dwayne Jones. Dwayne Jones was born and raised in an impoverished slum in Montego Bay, one of Jamaica's most homophobic and anti-LGBT cities. Bullied in high school for his effeminate nature, Dwayne dropped out of education and, aged 14, was thrown out of the family home by his father, who encouraged the neighbors to chase him from the neighborhood. Sleeping in bushes and on beaches, he eventually met KK and Chloe, 2 transgender individuals 7 years his senior, who took him under their wing. The trio moved into a derelict building in the hills above the city, where they became a small and loving family. Dwayne showed an interest in teaching, but also entertained the idea of entering the tourist industry. His dream career, however, was to become a performer like Lady Gaga, and he had even won a local dancing competition. Chloe recalled, "He was the youngest of us, but he was a diva. He was always very feisty and joking around." On the evening of July 21st, 2013, Dwayne, now 16, dressed in women's clothing and attended a dance party at a bar in Irwin. He, KK, and Chloe arrived by taxi at around 2 a.m., where Dwayne passed easily as a teen girl and danced with several men and boys. Although he had intended on keeping his true identity a secret to avoid any potential violence, he bumped into a girl he used to go to church with and came clean to her. This unidentified girl, however, did not care for Dwayne's trust. She informed her male friends, who decided to accost the 16-year-old outside of the venue. "Are you a woman or a man?" one of them asked, while another waved a lighter's flame near Dwayne's shoes, asking whether or not a girl could have such big feet. They then grabbed a nearby lantern and shone it on Dwayne, lighting up the teenager from head to toe. The group of young men began to hurl homophobic slurs at him. At this point, Chloe caught wind of what was going on and headed over to intervene. She whispered in Dwayne's ear, walk with me," hoping to steer him away from the conflict. But the 16-year-old stood his ground and insisted he was a girl. A moment later, someone pulled on Dwayne's bra strap, which prompted him and Chloe to flee. The crowd followed, however, and the teenager was unable to get away. Over the next few hours, Dwayne was subjected to horrific, brutal violence and torture. He was beaten, stabbed, shot, and run over with a car. He slipped in and out of consciousness for 2 hours before another attack killed him. No one attempted to help Dwayne during the fight. Chloe, meanwhile, was beaten and almost raped. She managed to escape by hiding in a church and later nearby woods. She couldn't call for help as she didn't have her mobile phone. Recalling the terrifying moment she saw Dwayne's body, she stated, "I started shaking and crying. It was horrible. It was so painful to see him like that." At 5 a.m., the police arrived on the scene. They discovered Dwayne's body in the bushes along Orange Main Road and began an investigation into the teenager's murder, asking that friends and family come forward and speak with them. Dwayne's family declined to claim the teenager's remains, and his father refused to speak with the press. On August 14th, 3 weeks after the slaying, Deputy Superintendent of Police Steve Brown announced that 14 statements had been collected and progress was being made in the case. 2 months later, a group of men set the derelict building in which Dwayne used to live alight. Chloe, KK, and the other remaining occupants were forced to flee their home. An officer at the St. James Public Health Department requested that the police protect the 4 former occupants of the building, but law enforcement declined to do so. Dwayne's murder made headlines across Jamaica and internationally. The Jamaican Justice Minister, Senator Mark Golding, condemned the murder and called for an end to depraved acts of violence in the country, and said its citizens should embrace the principle of respect for the basic human rights of all persons, and be tolerant of marginalized groups, including those in the LGBTQ community. Many university professors expressed outrage and disdain for what had happened. One drew comparisons between the anti-LGBTQ violence of Jamaica and the anti-black violence of mid-20th century United States, while another noted that many Jamaicans used the Bible to justify their homophobia, but were guilty of many other acts, including murder and adultery, which were also denounced in its passages and considered sins. Social media posts revealed that many citizens believed Dwayne was at fault for what had transpired, because he had cross-dressed in a society that did not tolerate that sort of behavior. Further supporting this attitude was the fact that over 300 people attended the dance on the night of the teenager's death, and yet witnesses were, quote, unable to see the faces of the attackers and identify those involved. Homophobia in Jamaica and many other parts of the Caribbean is still rampant, in part because same-sex relationships and intercourse are illegal. In 2006, Time magazine named Jamaica one of the most homophobic countries in the world, and in the years leading up to Dwayne's demise, two prominent LGBTQ+ activists, Brian Williamson and Lenford Harvey, were murdered. In 2013, Human Rights Watch, an international non-governmental organization that researches and advocates for human rights, discovered after 5 weeks of research that half of the LGBTQ+ members interviewed had experienced violence as a result of their sexual orientation or gender identity, sometimes on more than one occasion. Dwayne's case is still unsolved. A charity was set up in his name, which aims to aid homeless LGBTQ+ youths in Jamaica, and his friends still recall him fondly. KK and Chloe noted that after his death, they would still sometimes speak to him, with KK stating, "I'll be cooking in the kitchen, and I'll say, 'Dwayne, you hungry?' or something like that. We just miss him all the time. Sometimes I think I see him." Claudia Kirschhoch. On May 24th, 2000, Claudia Ann Kirschhoch boarded a plane bound for Montego Bay, Jamaica. An assistant editor for Frommer's Travel Guides, based in New York City, Claudia had been chosen to participate in a travel junket to the new Sandals holiday resort in Havana, Cuba, with the establishment sponsoring the stays of the 29-year-old and 3 other travel journalists. Stopping over in Montego Bay, however, the foursome's holiday excitement was dashed when it was revealed they would be refused entry to Cuba. As return flights to New York City were fully booked until June 1st, Claudia, alongside another writer, Tanya Grossinger, were rerouted to the Sandals Resort in Negril, Jamaica, on May 25th. Claudia was last seen alive 2 days later, on the 27th, by a resort lifeguard as she walked along 7 Mile Beach at around 1 p.m. She was expected to return to work on the 2nd of June, but failed to do so. Still, her colleagues did not appear to stir. It was Claudia's parents, Fred and Mary, who reported her missing, as they could not contact her and were told by her employer that she hadn't returned to work. During the initial investigation, detectives established that all that was missing from Claudia's belongings was a bikini, a t-shirt, and a radio, all of which she had on her when she was last seen walking on the beach on the 27th. Her passport, return flight tickets, $180 cash, credit cards, camera, and mobile phone had all been left behind, as had the rest of her clothing. Reportedly, the hotel had opted not to report Claudia missing, even though she had missed her checkout date. Following her disappearance, her possessions were removed from the room by cleaning staff and taken to the manager's office. The room was then sanitized and rented out again, which may have removed potential clues and contaminated the crime scene. However, this was not the first instance of ineptitude displayed at the resort. Claudia's mobile phone disappeared shortly after her belongings were moved, as did a logbook that the hotel kept, which recorded the license plates of vehicles that came and went from the establishment. Furthermore, there was a surveillance camera near the 29-year-old's room, but the footage on it had been accidentally taped over after she vanished. The film roll in her camera was reportedly developed by staff at the hotel, but they told her family members there was nothing on it. As Claudia's loved ones scrambled to make sense of what had happened, the Jamaican press began to portray the writer as an adventure seeker who was likely responsible for her own fate after she went missing. Her parents, upon one of their first visits to the country, were taken aback when Leo Lambert, the head of corporate public relations for Sandals Resorts, held a press conference where he parroted similar sentiments, describing their daughter as an adventurous partier who ran off with a Jamaican lover. Lambert, coincidentally, had taken 4 days off work following the vanishing. More suspiciously, however, is that he attempted to obtain a new passport around this time. He later stated he was simply trying to protect the resort and save his job. Shortly after Claudia's disappearance was reported, Tanya Grossinger came forward to reveal what she knew. Claudia had become friends with a bartender at the resort, Anthony Grant. On the morning of May 27th, Tanya managed to arrange a flight home for herself, so she had a final breakfast with Claudia, who revealed she had gone on a date with Grant the previous night. They had gone to a nightclub together, smoked marijuana, and then gone skinny dipping before Grant walked her back to the resort. The pair didn't have sex, and she declined a follow-up date. According to Tanya, Claudia planned to stay in Jamaica until more flights home became available. Using this information, the authorities turned their attention to Grant, who initially denied going on a date with the 29-year-old, and when he was caught out, stated he had lied because the resort had a strict policy on employees dating guests. The day after Claudia vanished, Grant called in sick. He did not return to work for 4 days. Assisted by the FBI, who became involved with the investigation following the family's dissatisfaction with the progress of the case, law enforcement searched Grant's Toyota Corolla for clues. They discovered a strand of hair belonging to Claudia in the back seat, and it was noted that he had changed the seat covers. A sniffer dog traced the 29-year-old's scent to the trunk of the Toyota, and noticed it on a pair of Grant's gloves and boots, both of which were at his residence. However, DNA testing on the items proved inconclusive. A tiny amount of blood was found on the blade of a knife inside his home, but it was too small to be sent for analysis. Grant eventually agreed to a polygraph test. Unsurprisingly, the results were inconclusive, although he was allegedly truthful when he responded with no after being asked if he killed Claudia. As we've discussed many times on this channel, however, polygraphs are not trustworthy and aren't usable as evidence in court. Grant has never been named a suspect in the case, although Claudia's parents, Fred and Mary, believe he knows more than he is letting on. In 2001, the family received an anonymous letter which stated Claudia had been slipped a date rape drug while at a party with Grant and had overdosed as a result. There has been no evidence so far to back up this claim, and the writer of the letter has never been traced. Over the years since she vanished, there have been numerous sightings of Claudia in various Jamaican villages. Authorities have been unable to confirm the legitimacy of these sightings. In 2002, Claudia's family had the 29-year-old declared legally dead and filed a lawsuit against the Sandals Resort, claiming they willfully destroyed evidence and caused emotional stress. A settlement was reached in 2007. Fred and Mary noted on several occasions that local police in Jamaica had failed to cooperate with them and would not let them examine case files. Claudia was last seen on the afternoon of May 27, 2000, on 7 Mile Beach in Negril, Jamaica. She is a white woman with brown hair and brown eyes, standing at 5'2". At the time of her disappearance, she weighed 105 pounds and wore a blue bikini and t-shirt. She also carried a portable radio. Claudia has a tattoo of a phoenix on her right hip, and, if she is still alive, will be 51 years old. If you have any information about Claudia's case, you can contact the FBI Florida office on 305-944-9101. And there you have the facts. Please leave a comment down below with your own thoughts and reactions, and remember to like this video and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.